Where are the low value men? Like, what are all the low value men up to during these trying times? Because the high value men, I know they're around. They won't shut the fuck up. Low value men, I have not heard a word out of. I'm starting to think I'm on their side. I think I want one of those. I want a low value man. They don't make podcasts. I haven't seen one low value man make a podcast. Do they not know how to use microphones? Maybe that's a good thing. That's hot. All right, I've never seen a man use a microphone for good.
Until now, everybody buckle up. It's low value mail time with your host, Danny Polishchuk. Scroats, rejoice, because we've got an all-new episode of Low Value Mail here for you today on this Monday, May 13th, 2024, in the year of our Lord. Joining us today on this is episode number 106. I don't know why every time I say this is what number episode is, but maybe one of you cares. Shout out to everybody watching live on YouTube, Rumble, and Twitter, or X. I don't call it X, but people do. Joining us today, we have Joe Rupe, host of the late night show Lighting the Void, which airs live on the Fringe FM weeknights, as well as he's the owner and executive of the network. He's had a series of out-of-body experiences, and his shows discuss the occult, consciousness, sacred sexuality, and astral travel. And we are going to be asking him all about that. My head's kind of cut off here a little bit, isn't it? A little bit. Let me do that. All right, there we go. That makes me feel better. I don't know if any of you care, though. Before we get the show started, Reagan says I'm turning gray. Yeah, last 5 years. It's going. It's just what it is, though. Before we get started, please, everybody, just hit that like button. If you're watching right now, hit the like button. Subscribe to this channel, Low Value Mail. If you are a listener and you're listening on some app, subscribe to the podcast wherever you do that. And, leave a review or whatever the hell. If you'd like to support the show, you can do so over at patreon.com/lowvaluemail. You support this show, you support the bathhouse, and mostly all you get is this fancy wrench on YouTube where you can drop links and access to all of the episodes with no ads. So isn't that something for $5 a month? If you want to do it, do it. If not, do one of the things you can do. You goddamn freeloader. Just like the fucking stream. There's going to be no after show tonight. I know I said there's going to be an after show, but I got to record tomorrow at 9:30 in the morning. So for Boys Cast. So unfortunately, we will have one not tonight, but next week. So rejoice on that, and we'll be good for that next week. Apologize for that. And yes, we have a new episode of The Bathhouse tomorrow night, live every Tuesday night, 9 p.m. from the Stand Comedy Club Green Room here in New York City. And if you want to catch me on the road, shout out to Vince, shout out to Covey Clown with the super chat. Appreciate it, man. And shout out to Vince, who always has given out channel memberships and came out with a few others of you to the dojo on Saturday night. That was a pretty fun show. And I got some stand-up dates coming up in Minneapolis, Edmonton, and Vancouver for the Canadian Scroats, the out west Canadian Scroats. And if you're fans of either of those hockey teams, good luck. Without further ado, let me bring on the man of the hour. Joe, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, brother. Thanks for having me.
Here we go, Joe. Is it Rupe?
Yeah, Rupe. That's
okay.
Right.
I wasn't sure if it was like French or something, and you're like, it's Rupe.
No, man. I've heard people have called me Rupee and all kinds of stuff, but it's just. I figured it
was just Rupe, especially based on where you're joining from. So thank you for coming on the show. Appreciate it very much. We got a lot to talk about it tonight because you're the first guest I've had who's kind of had these out of body experience and kind of talks about it. So you've had what you describe in your bio, a series of out-of-body experiences. Can you please, I guess, explain / describe what these are?
Sure. Yeah, man. Out-of-body experience is a little bit different than lucid dreaming, which, lucid dreaming is when you're aware that you're dreaming. To me, it's a little bit different than astral travel, because I think a lot of people get astral travel confused with like remote viewing and things like that. Like a full-fledged out-of-body experience is when you leave your body and you're still in this, you're still subject to this reality. In other words, you could see yourself sleeping, you could go around your house, you could go places and you're still here. Right. So I had these experiences that they happened to me, and then it kind of led me down. That opened my mind up to all kinds of crazy stuff, and a lot of it's unbelievable. I get that, but it led me down a road of just craziness, man, after that.
And so how did you you get them from having like an accident, or?
No. You can have them from having an accident, though. Some people,
this isn't like you didn't die.
No. I wanted to do this.
Oh, okay.
I wanted to do this. So what happened was, as I was working at a cell phone company, and I hated my job. I was bored, so I started buying audiobooks like crazy. And I bought this audiobook called Journeys Out of the Body by Robert Monroe, because I thought, what does this mean? Journeys out of the body. And I grew up religious, and so it kind of, it fancied my curiosity a little bit. And so I listened to the book, and the guy started making sense. I did some of his practices. I became obsessed with it, really. And then eventually I had an out-of-body experience, and you couldn't tell the difference the first time it happened to me. Basically, you just really relax yourself. You don't fall asleep. You get into a state of like sleep paralysis, is what you do. But you don't fall asleep. Your body falls asleep, which is weird. So your body becomes paralyzed, and it'll even start vibrating. But then at that point, you're supposed to kind of there's different methods that you can do to get out of body, right? And so I tried a whole bunch of them, but one day I just said, whatever. I really didn't care, because I've done it so much that I almost gave up on it. And then one day I just sat up, I pushed with my elbows. I sat up, and it felt like if you were to sit up out of that chair and stand up, that's what it felt like. There was no difference. And then I turned around and I saw myself sleeping, and I was like, holy crap, man, I did it. I did it. So, then I went outside and started floating around. It didn't last long, because apparently you're supposed to stay calm, but I didn't stay very calm because I was freaking out the whole time.
Yeah, like you're not meant to go do crazy shit. So how long, how many attempts did this take you before you were able to find?
I would say it took me a better of at least a month of just solid trying it, almost every single night trying to do it.
And is it as you're going to sleep or no?
Yeah, so the idea is there's a place, and when you go to sleep, it's called the hypnagogic state, right? It's between sleep and awake. And your brain and body shuts down. Your brain and body will shut down. But if you can keep your brain focused while your body shuts down, you'll feel this vibration. And a lot of people think it's a trick, man, but it's not a trick, because I started doing experiments afterwards. Like, you can actually see what's going on in the physical realm and affect the physical realm too, if you get good at it, right? So it's very trippy. It's very kind of poltergeisty, but it changed my whole life. I was just a normal dude. All I cared about was making money, chasing girls, trying to make as much money as possible. That's it, right? Yeah. But when this happened to me, everything changed for me. Everything changed.
And so I'm trying to wrap my head around this. So it's essentially, what exactly the purpose of it?
The purpose of it, one, is we all worry. Well, most of us, right? Most of us worry about, at least I do.
Sure.
That are we more than our physical body? When we die, are we just worm food, or is there anything to all this spiritual stuff, right? There's no way anybody can tell us that. If they've died, they can't come back and tell us. So to explore consciousness while you still are in the body, there's other, people meditate. I guess there's all kinds of different things you can do, but the out of body experience kind of tripped me out, because I'm thinking, who doesn't want to fly around in the world unseen, and see what that's all about? Plus, there's a lot of talk where you could go to these other dimensions and see other things and then experience the spiritual realms, but I never got to those places that other people talk about.
Yeah,
ever.
like there's degrees of it, I guess, in terms of
Yeah.
like I imagine it's almost a discipline or like a skill
Yeah.
to
Oh,
some
yeah.
degree.
Yeah.
So what are like examples of when, what you can do when you're out of body? Like what exactly,
Well, first
when you
thing,
say
so
affecting
here's
the physical world and whatnot?
sure. Like, so one of the experiments I did was my son was in the back. I think he was playing, like he was in his bedroom, and I think he was playing, I forget what he was playing, like Fortnite or something. And so the second time I did this, I started thinking about, well, I'm going to try and see if I can affect the physical realm. So I went into his bedroom. Now, what'll happen is sometimes a dream will start to take over, and that's really just your brain falling asleep. So as I came into the bedroom, I knocked on the desk, right? And when I knocked on the desk, he kind of jerked his head and looked, but he kept playing his game like maybe it was just some kind of weird noise or something. So then I kind of floated back. And then when I woke up, I went and talked to him. I said, "Did you hear anything weird in here?" He's like, "No." I didn't want to, I was doing it kind of scientifically because I didn't want to make it out to where he would be like, "Yeah, I heard something, just impress dad," or whatever,
Sure.
So I was like, "Did you hear anything weird at all?" He's like, "Why you keep pressing me on this?" He said, "The only thing that might have happened weird was I heard something weird over here on the desk, and that was it, you know." And I didn't even tell him at the time, but for me, I was like, okay, all this stuff in these books, there's something to it. But to the extent, like, I only want to get people to the state so they can see it. That's all I want to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there's so many stories about people going to like all these different dimensions and Mars and all this stuff, and I'm not saying they don't do it, but it just seems way too hard to do, honestly, man.
So what's, and like, so you can, so like it's obviously not your physical body, but it feels like you're walking around, but you can manipulate physical items. Like you can pick something up.
I've been trying to do that. I haven't gotten to that point. Like I can hit stuff, but I can't pick anything up. And the first time that I had this experience, man, like it started becoming more difficult. I know this sounds crazy, but it started becoming more difficult. Like I'd come out of my body and I'd feel like my feet rise, but my head would be stuck, or it'd feel like my ear was swelling up, or I'd get all the way out and I was blind. I couldn't see. I could feel stuff, but I couldn't see. Right. Sometimes I'd come out and I couldn't hear, So like this led me down to a whole other realm. Like I thought I was kind of going crazy too, but so did Robert Monroe until he got psychologically checked out. And then you look into it and lots of people are actually attempting it and doing it. And he has a whole institute based on it. Right. So, to be able to explore consciousness, I guess practically, why would anybody want to do this is one, to prove that you're more than your physical body.
Sure.
And two, like, see what else is out there, man, in this spiritual world. Like, what is it made up of? And so far, it's complete chaos. I think.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think it is where everybody's like Carl Jung talked about this place called the collective unconscious. And I think that this place is where all of our just junk in our head exists before it comes into physical reality. Right. I think that's what it is.
And so what's the, I guess, craziest thing you've done with one of these out of like what's the most you've, I guess, what's your high water mark for the most you've, I guess, because I guess you're always trying to push the boundaries somewhat of what you've previously done.
Yeah. What I would like to do would be leave the planet. I haven't done that yet. But the craziest thing that I've done so far is this is how I kind of got into magic and other stuff, because that got me into that. As I started looking up these like names, God names and things like that. I know it sounds creepy and evil, but I was looking into more of like a chaos magic sense. So one time I was coming out of my body and I came out from my chest up, but I was stuck. And I could see like these little blobby, like Rorschach looking figures just floating in front of me. I didn't know what they were. So I felt like they were holding me there. Right. So I said, I demand you to release me by life and light, which is called Luke's energy, which is something in magic. You can look it up in the Golden Dawn. But anyways, when I said that, a different voice came through me. It sounded like way deeper than James Earl Jones or something. It was deep, right? It came through me. And as soon as I said that, these things shoved me back into my body. So I think as far as a watermark is concerned, like my watermark is to get outside of that barrier, because every time I've gotten out of body, there's always there's either like a physical barrier or maybe a being. And I don't want to scare people and say it's like a poltergeist, but there's always something there to block
Energy
you from going
or
further.
Something.
Yeah, it could be.
And like,
sure.
how often do you do this right now? Like, is this
like I try to do it every single night I go to sleep. Right. I think it takes a level of being able to relax and focus and kind of an obsession, just like anything else. When you set your mind to it, you'll get it done. Because if you become distracted, if your body becomes too tired or you become too amped up, like if you're not just kind of chill, it's hard. It becomes hard to do it night after night. So I've had several different experiences, all while going to sleep, like that. But I think I'm not trying to say that my experiences is true and everyone else's isn't, but I find it fascinating that when I look at Monroe's work and like Thomas Campbell, who's a NASA physicist who also helped Robert Monroe figure this stuff out, and they had the whole Gateway program and the government got involved, and that's another story we can get into. But
yeah, let's get into that after this. But
he like their out of body experiences corresponded with what I was experiencing. A lot of these other people that talk about, like I went to the 12th dimension, 5th dimension, or I talked to angels or aliens and things like that. I just haven't experienced that. I haven't,
Yeah. And is this like similar to almost like meditating? Like what entails like this process of?
Well, if you look at all spiritual texts, right? Like all religious texts, especially like Christian texts, there's books in there. Well, they'll mention it, but they don't get too far into it. I think Paul or Peter will say when he was witnessing whatever he was witnessing, said, I don't know if I was out of the body or in the body. I can't tell. Right. When you look in other texts, they say this stuff. So I think the out of body experience was a secret to like old mystery schools. And I think, in my opinion, they took this thing to a whole nother level and made religions based around all of the stuff that they witnessed and envisioned and all kinds of stuff. So yeah, you can get out of body meditating. Have I been able to do it just from a meditative state? Only one time. And I think it was an accident, honestly, but most of the time I do it when I'm trying to go to sleep, when my body's a little tired,
Have you ever taken psychedelic drugs?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I've taken, I used to be a big rave guy back in the 90s, took a bunch of acid then, ecstasy then. I don't know if you consider ecstasy psychedelic, but it can be.
Yeah. It falls into that camp. I would
mushrooms.
Say. Yeah. Okay. So
DMT. I've taken DMT too.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Which is like, that's the out of body. That's the one that many people report where you have actual, like where you're looking at yourself.
Yeah, man. It feels similar. Like it feels real similar. Like you don't get the vibrations that you do in your body if you're just like normally doing it. When I took DMT, it was like my body just kind of disappeared. Mm-hmm. Like it was gone, but as far as like the sleep state, it really happens. Like your body will vibrate. It kind of fights it if your brain is still awake. I think that's why it feels like a vibration,
Interesting. And so who's this Robert Monroe? He's the guy who just wrote the book on this, essentially.
Yeah, Robert Monroe started writing about this back in the 60s, and he's got 3 books, but his first book is called Journeys Out of the Body. And he just started having random out of body experiences, and he thought he was going crazy. He checked himself into the doctor. He took a scientific approach to it. He didn't join any cult or community or anything. And then he started scientifically experimenting with it, trying to see what this was all about, basically, And once he realized it was real, he opened up an institute, which is I think it's in Virginia. I think it's in Virginia because it's up there somewhere. And it became a big deal. So it's a big deal to a lot of people, and the institute is still there today, but he's not alive anymore. And the government became interested. The CIA became interested. So all these documents they're out, right? You can read about the Gateway experience under any website that shows CIA documents. And so basically what Robert Monroe figured out, which I think is the key to like the esoteric mysteries, but he figured out that if you sync both hemispheres of the brain together, that it causes you to have extrasensory or hyperconscious experiences such as the out of body experience. And the first way that they did this was they had a thing called Hemi Sync. So they would put one tone in an ear and a slightly different tone in your left ear, right? So that your brain waves can't make sense of it at first. So you'll hear like this wah-wah sound. And then if the tones are close enough, eventually the brain will sync them together and it'll sound just like a solid tone.
Okay.
And once that happens, your body, I think it becomes easier for you to have these experiences, these extra conscious experiences, you know.
Have you done that?
Yeah.
With the tones?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Forgot to mention too, the first thing that happened when I got out of body, I was listening to these tapes, like his introductory tapes. He has 2 online you can listen to right now. So they're his open exercise is an introductory exercise where he has a relaxation method, kind of like he blends a lot of it together: relaxation, hypnosis, Hemi Sync, and then there's usually some like white noise in the background too, right? But yeah, all the first times when I had this, I was listening to Robert Monroe, you know, every single time actually, until I first came out, you know.
And then you don't need it anymore, like once you...
Yeah, like if I'll get to where, like right now, I'm listening to them again because for me, I guess it depends on what's happening in my life at the time.
Sure.
Or the stresses I'm going through. I don't know. But for me, I'll have to go back and listen to them so that I can get back in that state. Right. And then experience it again. Because if you're having like, you know, money issues, emotional issues, relationship issues, like if you're going through turmoil, it's really hard to just relax and focus on this stuff, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes you need a little help.
How's this different from like lucid dreaming? Is this in the same kind of realm, or?
I think it's all, honestly, I mean, that's a big question, right? Because it's like, what is reality? What is consciousness and all this other stuff? You know, we can get into quantum physics and see that everything's kind of one thing and separation is an illusion and the observer effect and all that. But I do think that it's all different states of consciousness. I do. Like lucid dreaming, your body's already in an REM state, so you're already dreaming. But somehow or another, usually people have trained their subconscious by doing exercises to wake themselves up in the dream. And then sometimes people can go from being in the dream to an out-of-body experience, like back to where they're sleeping. So to me, I think it's just different levels, honestly. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember that movie, Waking Life, that Alex Jones.
Yeah.
Alex Jones. That was the first time I ever heard of Alex Jones. Actually, it was all about lucid dreaming. So you were talking about magic, but it's magic like with a K.
Yeah.
It's not like you're not like making a ball disappear.
No.
So
no, I do what a lot of people are like. A lot of people are afraid of it, and I understand why. But you have to understand the praxis of the unconscious, right? So your unconscious, the thing that's running everything, your unconscious is working right now. You're just not aware of it. And it's taking in everything: sight, sound, color, symbols, everything. And this thing is running the show. It runs your life. You know, it's where all your deep-seated problems are. So the science has figured this out through the placebo. Well, when we can convince people unconsciously that they're taking the medicine, they get healed, or people are healing themselves and, you know, not of diseases through understanding this stuff. Magic's no different than that. It's the only difference between magic and that is that magic adds one thing. Magic adds the fact that we're all in this collective unconscious, and that reality manifests through the unphysical to the physical. So it's more of like a hermetic idea. So when you do, like, I practice old school ceremonial magic, like before we can get into Aleister Crowley because that's who everybody knows and all that stuff, right? But that's what you do when you do a ceremony. You're activating things that your unconscious can see, whether it's through color, sound, sight, you know, symbols. You're doing all of it at once. And the reason why you would do it, well, there's many reasons why you would do it. We do ritual every day, and it affects our life every single day. So simply practicing magic is a way of taking over your unconscious and trying to, not really taking it over, but understanding it and working with it. Because I think the unconscious, our unconscious mind, that place where they call placebo, I think is the doorway to what we've always called spiritual. We just don't really know what it is, you know.
Sure. And so you're basically trying to figure out how to, I guess, regularly access that.
You're right. Yeah.
Yeah. And so you're in this, like, to learn this, you're in some sort of like, it's not like Masons, but it's like, I heard you talking about it on a different podcast. Like it's something.
No, I became a master Mason a long time ago, and in this state in Arkansas, not in Florida, but here.
Okay.
And because Manly P. Hall inspired me, and it just wasn't what I thought, man. It was, nobody knew what I was talking about. It was Blue Lodge Masonry. So I really didn't get into the higher ups or anything like that. And it was really,
like it's just like more of a drinking club kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean,
it's just like
not really a drinking club. It's really like they try to make you a better person.
Yeah.
That's it, and understand morals and stuff with all these weird hidden rituals. And I would even ask people, I'm like, do you know what these rituals mean? Because I did. They didn't. So I thought, where do I go from here? And that's when I started studying magic, right? Like Golden Dawn magic specifically.
Golden Dawn. And what is that?
Yeah. So Golden Dawn magic was the first ceremonial magic secret society order that was established in 1888 by three Masons. They established it in 1888. They claim to have discovered it through secret manuscripts and secret chiefs and all that stuff. So all of our occult stuff that we do now, whether it's Wicca, whether it's chaos magic, pretty much all of the magic, tarot, astrology, everything that I wouldn't say astrology or tarot, but let's just say all the magical orders nowadays, the ones that practice magic, all of their teachings come back from this original order, which is basically a teaching of Hermetics. It teaches three things, right? It teaches theurgy, which is what ceremonial magic is, right? Which is understanding ceremony and working with the elements. That goes back to the Greeks, okay? The second stage is what you learn is called alchemy, which you've talked to Juan. He's talked to you some about.
Yeah. He
alchemy,
was on the show
right?
last week. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the operation of the sun, right? And that's more learning about how energy transforms in all things, plants, metals, and you. And once you start to witness it, you'll see that this transformation process happens in everything. And then the third stage of the mysteries.
Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
The third stage of the mysteries is astrology. So whenever you go into these mystery schools, especially in the West, they always have 3 stages. And that's what the deepest hidden teachings are, is the sun, the moon, and the stars. It all goes back to Hermetics. And basically these guys that created the Golden Dawn, they were like, we just want to get past all the BS and we're going to, create this order. Maybe they talked to secret chiefs. I'm not going to say they did. Maybe there was some, secret thing that was handed down to them. I don't know. But this was the first magical secret society that became popular, and Aleister Crowley joined it. Mathers joined it. Samuel Mathers. A lot of famous people joined this society. You can look it up. And then later it dispersed, and things like Crowley went to the OTO and started his own thing, and Dion Fortune left and started her own thing. And this guy named Israel Regardie released all the secret material in books. And now we've got tons of these like orders everywhere, but the teachings are solid.
And so do you learn about this stuff just on your own, or do you actually go, like, is there a meetup?
Well, I actually
talk about that. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't know. It's not like I don't know how secret of a society this is, or I guess you're obviously talking about it. So,
and I don't know about like the OTO, right? But in the Golden Dawn, you can't really talk about. The OTO is like the Crowley's order.
Gotcha.
But the OTO already existed. And so, like I said, in the Golden Dawn, they taught all these things. But when you get to the higher stages of the mysteries, you start learning about sacred sexuality, right? That everything in reality that's creating, and you can observe it in nature to the universe, has these 2 forces, alpha and omega, masculine and feminine, which is the 7th law of like Hermetics, which is gender. So when Crowley learned this secret, he left the Golden Dawn, went into the OTO and said, hey, I know the big secret. You don't have to take me through all your initiations. I already know it. And that's kind of when like sex magic took a whole other turn, And when people say, these orders are having orgies and all this stuff and sex magic this and that usually spawns from Crowley leaving the Golden Dawn and starting his own thing, and that becoming popular. But really, he just learned about these two energies that exist in everything that come together, you know.
And so what is what did you say, sacred sexuality?
Mm-hmm.
What is that like exactly?
So sacred sexuality, it spawns from Hermetics, like as above, so below. In other words, all of the same functions that happen in the greater universe, or even down to molecules, are doing this alchemical thing, right? And the first two energies that make this thing happen, we can see it in electricity and everything, is positive and negative, or masculine and feminine. It's usually what those two poles, when you see the mystery schools and they got those two pillars, that's what those represent.
Okay.
It's
kind of like a yin and yang.
Exactly.
Something
when you
like
bring these energies together, it creates. That's all there is to it. So when we categorize lots of different things under masculinity and lots of different things under feminine, and that's kind of what magic is bringing all this stuff together to create, you know. So sacred sexuality is understanding how this works from the top down. Really big, you know, energies, the universe, all the stuff, all the way down to man and woman. And really understanding that this is, when people are talking, like in the Revelations, they call it the bridegroom, right? And the mysteries.
Sure.
So it's all there. It's all deeply hidden, but that's really all it is. So in essence, when you have an orgasm, right, like on the physical earth, even though it's kind of a, you know, an earthly form of sacred sexuality, that's God. That's what they say God is. You're experiencing God momentarily.
Okay.
Which, you know, that kind of thing. But that's basically what it is. Understanding that energy on many levels.
And what's the application of something like that? Like, how do you apply that in your day-to-day life, or do you not?
You definitely, we all apply it in our day-to-day lives, whether we're aware of it or not, right? So the first thing that we do is we have an inner transformation that needs to happen, which is the masculine and feminine energies inside of us, right? So this is where we get all of our hang-ups and all of our shit, right? Mm-hmm. You know, Carl Jung called it the anima and the animus, and Sigmund Freud called it the Oedipus theory. But there really is like a thing going on inside of us that we really want to be uniquely ourselves. But are we man enough? Are we woman enough? And so this is this Christ-like battle that we're going through all the time through our lives, trying to become uniquely us and not giving a shit what anybody else thinks. And we have to do that first before we come into, you know, we find supposedly our partner. That's the idea of how all this stuff works. And then when we use it in our day-to-day life, we do masculine and feminine things all the time. Even Spanish, the language was created, you know, certain words are masculine, certain words are feminine.
Sure.
So if we practice magic, we're going to blend masculine things like the logic of understanding symbols and formulas, which corresponds to our left brain, and colors and smells and the romance and the, I guess you could say the drama of the ritual, which corresponds to our feminine or our right brain. And we're going to put it all together and we're going to create something, whatever we focus on. Now you could do that individually, or you can do that with someone that's aware of all this stuff and do it together. But you can, in my opinion, you're either aware of that you're doing this and your unconscious is running the show and you're just subject to whatever's going on in your life all the time, or you can tap into this stuff and start. It's not really about control, but it's more about getting into in tune of the wave of your life. This is the way I look at it, you know.
Interesting. All right, we're gonna take a call here. Phone lines are open, everybody. 1-888-949-2969 extension 1. I'd like to hear from you. See what you think about all this and some questions for our guests. Let's take call number 1. I believe I might know who this is. Let's wait. Hello, you're on Low Value Mail. Who are we speaking with?
Hey, Danny, it's the Goob.
The Goob. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. How about you?
Very well, very well. You're on with Joe. Go ahead.
Yeah, so you were just talking about sex magic, and I'm a little curious, you know, what kind of results, like real world, what kind of effects you would change or, you know, get from sex magic, potentially.
What kind of results? Well, I mean...
Yeah, I mean, if, like, you're doing magic, what's the actual result of it?
Well, all the results magically will happen in the form of a coincidence or a synchronicity. This is why it's ridiculous, right? You're not going to be able to shoot fireballs at your ass or kill people. I heard people say, well, there's
are
all
people
kinds
doing
of
this
stipulations
for that? Like, are some people trying to get in this magic stuff because they're trying to do crazy shit?
Yeah, man. Like they try to do what we call baneful stuff. They want to hurt people. They want to do all kinds of stuff. I've not even delved into that. Okay. So I don't know if any of that stuff works, but I know that there are people that do it. What it will do is, like, say if you can set up a ritual that you want to do. I don't know, and the more vague you are without being baneful, without messing with someone else's will, right? The better the results are going to be. So let's say you want to learn about forgiveness or love or abundance. Let's just look at the 4 elements. You want to learn how to be smarter or how to take in more stuff that builds you up. You can make a ritual around that and do it. And coincidentally, this stuff will just start coming into what's called your sphere of sensation. It'll just start happening. Now, if you go out talking about it, it messes it up. But if you keep silent, and that's why you see all this sign of silence and you see these pictures, and a lot of people think it's about, keeping stuff secret, right? Or hiding stuff. But what it really is if you just keep it to yourself without giving, same thing when you go out of body, without giving into like astonishment, this stuff will keep happening. You can really manifest. I've got down to the point where I've manifest even like emergency money doing this stuff. And it happened instantaneously. I would say almost maybe 10 minutes after we were done.
Really?
So,
and is it like,
yeah.
And what does that entail in terms of like, is that, like what exactly do you do? Are you like saying things? Are you?
Well, yeah. So I do everything in my own circle, right? So, and usually when you do a ceremony, it takes a while.
So it's like in some sort of ceremony.
Yeah. Yeah. You have to do breath work. You have to get into a focused state of consciousness and then perform the ceremony and then allow your unconscious to take in all the symbols and all that stuff, right? So it's a long process. There are chaos magicians that do this totally different. They just make sigils and jerk off and they're done.
What is it? Sorry, what is a chaos magician?
So a chaos magician is like, there's a lot of really great chaos magicians, by the way. They figured out that, okay, all this religious stuff and all these God names and all these ancient whatever, that's fine. Let's just focus on what works, right? So chaos magicians like Paul Hine and other people, they wanted to figure out what works. And so they figured out that sigils work pretty much.
What is that?
Sigil magic. It's when you make a little magic sigil. There's a bunch of different ways to do it.
What's a sigil?
Well, like this is a sigil. See?
Oh, sorry.
Anything is a symbol.
In front of your
it's just
face?
a symbol.
Oh, gotcha.
Just a symbol.
Gotcha, symbol. Okay.
Yeah. So you could write like, I want to whatever. And I think if you look up Grant Morrison, the comic book writer of The Incredibles, he teaches people how to do this on YouTube, right? So you could write like, I want to experience more friendship in my life or whatever. And for some reason, it's like you're just tricking your mind. You cross out all the vowels, you cross out all the two, like say if you have 2 T's or 2 S's or whatever, you cross those out. So you're just left with just the consonants. And then you take those consonants and you just make a little witchy symbol out of it, right? That's all. You just find a artistic way to make a little witchy symbol and then focus on it. You can focus on it, but then other people actually, they do sexual things when they focus on it. I'm just telling you, they do.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah. We're just learning about this.
So, and they're just trying to manifest it. So the idea is when you do this stuff, the lust for results, it never happens. So like, even if you do, like, say you do the sigil or whatever, and you're just sitting around going like, man, it's not happening. It's not happening. It doesn't work. Right? It's never going to happen. It only happens the moment you totally forget about it. When you totally do not give a shit, you've let it go. That's when it happens.
You just can't
every
want
single
it too
time.
much.
That's it. You got to let it go.
Any idea why?
I think it has something to do with, if we witness this in our life most of the time, I think it has something to do with that placebo world, that place where we're all connected. Like, I think the universe speaks a different language. I guess, So when I say, man, I really want money, I want money. We've heard this before. The universe is like, yep, that's your reality. You are stating what you are. I am that I am. So basically you're broke. The universe goes, yep, you're broke. That's how it just keeps feeding that energy to you. Mm-hmm. But when you let it go and you just don't care, or you feel like you're abundant without it, it just starts happening. Right. So it's the same thing. Like physically, we can see this when we have an orgasm. The orgasm's over. We're not in the lust for it anymore. It's over. Some people go to sleep. Some people move on about their life. But that actual moment is when the universe and us were speaking at, I guess you could say, the same level. Mm-hmm. But it's hidden in religion. Like, it's the sacred thing. Don't spill your seed, all this other stuff. But there was real understandings of it. They just thought people were stupid. In my opinion, they made a big old priest class and tried to control people and keep all this knowledge to themselves. That's my opinion, though.
Interesting. Goob, you got anything?
Yeah, just one other question, which is, have you ever tried summoning any angels?
Sure. Yeah. I haven't seen
them. Have you
ever
successfully done it?
Yeah, I mean, in my dreams, like only in my dreams. Like I haven't seen any physical angels. Okay, like if I invoke angels and stuff, usually it's either Michael for reasons of fire or protection, or Gabriel to understand something in my dreams, or Uriel for something to happen in Earth. So it's not like to me, and I don't want to offend anybody if you're religious, okay? But to me, these angels represent something. They correspond with those energies. So if you tap into the egregore or the energy of these things that we've all come to understand, and that's why they're so powerful, because that's what an egregore is. We've all agreed on it. Then things will happen. Now, I have talked to like certain magicians who said that they've seen physical angels, but they go into rituals that last like months long, things where they have to fast for 30 days. And I mean, at that point, right, like, aren't you messing with your consciousness anyways? Wouldn't you hallucinate and see something? Like it gets a little dicey, wishy-washy,
Yeah. Interesting.
All right. Well, thanks, man. I'll let you take another caller.
Thanks, Scoop.
Right on.
Yeah, this is how does alchemy play into all of this? Because it seems like that's like a big element, and it seems like it's kind of used not in. I guess everybody just thinks of alchemy as like turning whatever into gold, but
lead into gold, yeah.
Lead into gold, right? But you guys use it. Seems like a kind of differently.
Yeah. So I'm still like, I'm not like an adept, like a super advanced magician, right? So
how long have you been doing this for?
For probably about 8 years.
Okay.
So ceremonial magician, like this, people that become adepts overnight, like I wouldn't believe them. And, like these mysteries go back deep, real deep. It takes a lot of understanding and opening your consciousness up to understanding things on bigger levels. That's just my opinion. But alchemy is a process of what's called solvent coagula. In other words, the process of purification through dissolution. So you have to dissolve all the bad stuff and then purify yourself so that you can bring in all the good stuff. That's really all it is. There's like 7 different stages to it, and I can't think of all the stages off the top of my head. Usually when I do shows on alchemy, I have a list and explain them, but
sure,
that's what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it is. It's energy transformation. So people say the secret to alchemy is spiritual, or it's physical, like people can actually turn lead into gold, or that it's psychological. It's about becoming one with the self. But the deeper mysteries, in my opinion, are energetic. So it's all about understanding the energetic bodies. The laboratory is the sexual fires of your body and your stomach too. So the food you take in, the energy you give out, the stuff you take in, and the sexual energy that you give out on a daily basis that most of us don't even consider sexual. But men and women are doing things with these energies their whole life, whether they're having sex or not, right? It's just a part of who they are. It's what drives us.
All right, let's take another call. 1 second, please. While we bring them in. This person. Here we go. You're on Low Value Mail. Who we're speaking with?
Yo, what's going on, Danny?
Hey, what's up, Chad? How you doing?
Good. How you doing there, John?
Joe? I'm good.
It's Joe.
Oh, Joe.
good.
Oh, you know what? I apologize.
It's all right.
Yeah, I called in because I heard that you said, okay, obviously I'm hearing that you a magician, but I also heard that you said that you're a master mason, correct?
Yeah, but you have to understand, like, I left that place. Like, I don't mess with it anymore. From when I went into Masonry in Arkansas, man, this is a touchy subject, but I'm going to tell you what happened. Like, Arkansas doesn't, this place, like, in my opinion, Masons are not what I read about. Okay. So when I joined a lodge here in Arkansas, they wouldn't allow Prince Hall Masons. Like, you weren't considered an actual Mason if you were Prince Hall. They wouldn't allow any other Masons besides them. In other words, they were still being, like, they weren't even following the creed of what they taught, in my opinion.
Right.
So I left it. So I don't know that much about it. They sent me through the rituals really fast. And then when I realized that, because my family was in it, when I realized that this is what it was, like, you couldn't even have a license plate on it and said, I'm a Prince Hall Mason. Like, you weren't accepted. And to me, that was a no-go.
What is the difference? What is a Prince Hall Mason?
Prince Hall was a Mason, who was one of the, and if you might correct me here, I'm not sure, or somebody could correct me, but from my understanding, was the first Black Mason, right? And he created his own organization, and he's a man, just like we're all men, and Masons say you come as a man, as your own a will, your free and accepted will. So color doesn't matter. But here in this state, in the 2020s, like, it still mattered to them.
Oh, this is like a racism thing, essentially.
Yeah, like the Grand Lodge was like shutting down lodges or calling them clandestine, things like that. I don't know if they're doing that now. Other states were banning Arkansas, and saying we're not even going to associate with you. So just as fast as I started going through the rituals of Masonry, is as fast as I got out, if that makes sense. Because I didn't even know about that.
Gotcha. Okay. Nah,
it was a massive disappointment to me, man.
Yeah, sounds like it.
Yeah, I can imagine. But I guess my question was going to be around, like, the connection between, I guess, doing those types of magic and Masonry. But I mean, I guess,
I can tell you, I can talk about that, sure. So,
okay. Yeah.
So, like, the rituals that they do and as Freemasons, they have you memorize certain stances, like what they call do guards and things like that. You can look all this up. But what they don't know is that they're actually doing rituals that correspond with the Kabbalistic tree of life, which is what all of the Western mysteries are based around. So when you see a person holding, their Bible at their gut or their knees pointed a certain way, it's pointed towards certain Sephirah, which there's 10 on this tree of life. So all of Masonry is based around these 3 stages of mysteries: the sun, the moon, and the stars, or being born again, or alchemy, right? And this tree of life. The Masons in the Blue Lodge, you have to think, like, that's why they say there's nothing greater than a Master Mason, because there is nothing greater than these 3 mysteries. So when you go into the Scottish Rite or the York Rite or whatever, you're just learning more lessons that dive you deeper into all this stuff, really, to these 3 degrees. So when you hear people say, oh, he's a 33rd or 32nd or whatever, they are, but there's nothing bigger than, or more, I guess you could say to them, bigger than a Master Mason. There's nothing bigger than those 3 mysteries. So.
Gotcha.
But they do have one, like, I will say this, like, the part in the ritual where they talk about cutting your tongue out and throwing it underwater and all this other stuff, or killing you and things like that. That's enough to get your attention.
That's part of the Mason ritual.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's in there, man. Yeah.
And what, that's a punishment for something? Or
if you were to speak about any of the secrets or whatever, like, it's almost like they didn't change the ritual since the beginning, right? So you don't learn any secrets, but they say, but if you do tell any secrets, we can cut your tongue out and throw it under low tide or whatever, which is probably a symbol for something, but it's still freaky, because you got to think, man, people were doing this ritual a long time ago, and if someone said they were going to cut your tongue out, they probably meant it.
Probably were going to do it, yeah. So are there no
Yeah,
secrets
you know.
anymore
Definitely.
then? Like, is that...
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, the biggest secrets of all the, and look, my uncle's a 33rd degree, I'm sorry. Like I've been around these guys my whole life, okay? They don't know that the deeper mysteries are like the Rosicrucian alchemical stuff, like the sexual forces I was telling you about, or the elements, or they don't know all this stuff. But if you stay in Masonry long enough, you'll learn all kinds of history about religion, all kinds of history about symbolism, and then eventually you'll find that there's a Golden Dawn order inside Freemasonry, or there's this Rosicrucian order. It takes you a while to get into, after you've learned all this stuff. So it's like Boy Scouts for men.
Sure.
You see what I mean?
Right. I like that analogy, actually.
Yeah.
All right.
Anything else,
Yeah.
Chad?
All right. I guess I won't take up too much more time. I could rattle off a whole bunch of questions. You got me.
Yeah, go. Chad, go ahead.
If
If you got anything, Chad, if you got anything, go ahead.
Oh yeah. Hey, let me see. So I heard you talking about the collective unconscious. That's a concept that and actually we were just talking about David Wilcock. I think the last time I called, that's a concept that I first heard from him.
David Wilcock. Okay.
Are you familiar with David?
Yeah, I'm familiar with him. I think he teaches like a lot of people teach. I'm just going to be frank with you. A lot of people teach some hardcore, fantastic truth, but there's usually a 10% falseness in there that you need to watch out for. Like he teaches about synchronicity, but a lot of the things that he's claiming to know about these different orders in space, and if you've read all his books, it's pretty fantastic. And man, look, I've explored consciousness as much as I possibly can because I want to know the truth. And if it's not there, I'm going to tell you, dude, it's just not there, but it's like anything. I could sit here and tell you a 90% extravagant, all kinds of stuff, but there's some pretty important stuff. It's a little manipulative if you ask me, but he was one of the first people that did teach about, I guess you could say the law of one, and also synchronicity in a more spiritual sense. So it's not all bad. But anytime bullshit comes my way, like I back off as soon as I see it, especially if it's just way out there, which is a little weird because I talk about magic and OBE stuff, but yeah.
Yeah.
I know that, but that doesn't mean that you got to be a grifter, though,
Right.
So I can appreciate that. But all right, man, I appreciate you taking the questions, man.
All right.
Sure.
I'll talk to y'all later.
Thanks, Chad.
Peace.
Yeah. Do you know about Royal Arch Freemasonry?
Royal Arch, not really.
No. Okay, that was a question from.
No, I'm sure it's probably another form of, another class of Masons. They all have different classes in schools. You could probably, there's sites you can look all this stuff up and what they teach and everything too. Are
the Masons in America all different? Or is there
this is where it gets complicated, man. Geography? And this is where this is the reason why a lot of Masons get a bad name is because there's a bunch of orders that they're clandestine. There's a lot of people that just say they're Masons and they go get a signature somewhere and put up a plaque and they're Masons. So this is a constant war that goes on inside of Freemasonry. Are you a legitimate Mason? Like, do you actually have lineage to the Lodge of England? Have you been accepted? And France is the other one too, right? There's other Masonic orders that call themselves Masons, but they're also calling themselves like the vampires of the diamonds and stuff like that. Like they're all about learning about how to like suck energy out of people. And that's so ridiculous. Regular Masonry looks at them and says, well, that's clandestine. That's not actual Masonry. And yet someone could film their rituals and someone could, say they're from that and say, this is what Masonry is all about. And it'll blow up across the internet like crazy,
Yeah.
So it's a touchy, it's touchy.
Okay. Let's take another call. 1 second here. This is all, very interesting stuff. Yeah, we'll get to the. Mark wants to know about the vampires. Hold on a second here.
Yeah, it's ridiculous to me, that they do that. Like look, you can drain, any of us know like that have experienced narcissistic abuse or abuse of any kind, or just someone draining your energy. I mean, haven't you been around someone like this? God, this person's exhausting, man.
Of course. We got our caller here. Caller, you there?
Hey, yeah, this is OT.
OT, you are on the show. How's it going?
Hey, how's it going? How's it going, Joe?
Hey, what's up, man?
Regarding, I'm a lucid dreamer, and the way you were explaining magic sounded a lot how I manifest my lucid dreaming using a dream-induced lucid dream method, where you can tell your surroundings are a dream and you become aware of it.
Right.
Do you do that? Have you lucid dreamed?
Yeah. So one of the first, so I forgot to mention this earlier too. When I was listening to the Monroe tapes, I was also reading a book called Dream Yoga, right? Because I wanted to do both. But Dream Yoga is like, I guess what you're talking about. It taught you, hey, I want you to do certain things when you're in your real waking state, like right now. I want you to ask yourself all the time, am I asleep or am I awake? I want you to flip light switches on all the time. Look in the mirror. Do certain things that will let you know I'm either in a dream or in reality. And what happens is if you do this in real life enough, you'll just automatically start doing it in your dream. And then you're like, oh, damn, I'm in a dream. Like the light switch didn't work, or I can actually fly, or the mirrors look funny, stuff like that. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, and like the fear of falling when you're flying reminded me of how you were saying magic works. Like you can't care or freak out about it.
Right.
And I have to let it go.
Right.
And to that, have you like felt messages in your dreams? Do you feel like sometimes the contents there's like a guiding wisdom or logic to some of them?
I think there's something guiding you in your dreams. I think a lot of times at certain times of the day, like I had a dream the other night, I was in a music video and I met this chick that gave me $675 and then I passed her off to my dad. Like, what's that about? Like, I think that's like a junk in your head. But I also think that whatever is like guiding you, your higher self is speaking to you through your unconscious, because I've had dreams that were profound that have woke me up. Like a voice even shouted at me in my dreams, like, hey, Joe, take another direction. Like it doesn't even make sense. And I'm building all these bricks in it was like in a well. And then this big skeleton comes out of this well and this voice says, take another direction. Like it was loud enough to wake me up. To me, I don't know what that is. I don't know if that's God. I don't know if that's a higher self or an angel. I don't know what it is, but something was talking to me through my dreams. And that's happened on quite a few occasions. So I definitely think that place is a place where you can tap into something higher if you're willing to pay attention,
Awesome. I had a kind of unrelated question about the rebus. And do you think that has anything to do with the trans agenda? The half man, half human, or a half man, half woman idealized state?
I do. Not in that.
What is that? You say the rebus?
Is that what you said?
Yeah, REBIS. I believe it's like an idealized alchemical state of a half man, half woman.
Yeah, I think that there might be beings, or there might be a consciousness or an awareness where we're not split up, right? Or there are actually like beings. Even if you look at Renaissance art, like the Mona Lisa and stuff, they kind of look, like they are man and woman and things like that. I think what's happening, honestly, if you really want to know the truth, is like there's this energy that's trying to alchemize all of us, whether we're aware of it or not. Okay. And because it's doing that, these masculine and feminine energies inside of us are going through different things. And I think that it's expressing itself in an unaware state. Like people don't even know what to identify with or whatever, right? They're confusing, I think, certain energies with who they actually like are, like doesn't matter. I don't care if you're gay or not. That stuff doesn't even matter to me, or homosexual or transcend. What did you call it? Transgender. I think that they're just picking up on these energies is what I'm saying. Do I think that we're evolving into something like that? I don't know, man. I don't think so. If that's what you're asking.
Just kind of asking in general, if you've seen more of that ideology in your research.
Yeah, like I've seen it a few times, but it hasn't been that big of a thing, honestly. I've wondered about it like you have, but I haven't seen any I guess you could say solid information that that's what it's about, you know.
Caller. So how long have you been doing practicing the lucid dreaming stuff?
Probably like over 10 years when I really started focusing on it.
Nice.
Okay. And you did it just how kind of like with the light switches and stuff, just while you're awake, you're just constantly, I guess, like testing yourself?
Yeah, there's a lot of different methods to do it. I kind of am almost like a little wary to talk too much about it, just because like if you do some of these methods, it can be kind of tiring to not go through your dreams normally. But like the entry level is like, they're called reality checks. And so like you do things all the time. And so then if you do them in a dream, you notice that can't happen. Like trying to breathe through your nose or put a finger through your hand. And the higher level is using like meditation and a thing called all day awareness, where you are constantly auditing the current time and space and your own mindset and the past occurrences to see, am I in a dream? Am I dreaming? So you just are constantly checking to see if you're dreaming. And then when you are in a dream, you start using that muscle to say, okay, now I want to change. Now I want to fly. Now you blow up. Now you're gone.
And how often do you lucid dream? Like, is this regular?
Yeah, at least once a week, but I smoke a lot, so it doesn't happen as often.
So if you smoke less, you could do it more. Like, because I know you don't dream. Like whenever I smoke weed, I don't dream at all. So obviously something gets shut down.
Yeah. So then you're aware of how hard it is to achieve these like conscious states. Like, because when I talk about the out of body experience, people are like, "Man, do you do this all the time?" Stuff like it does become exhausting to try to
definitely
keep the stuff going. You know.
Yeah, and we were kind of having a chat in the chat as a gamer. If the dream is game-like, it's really easy to not notice or to then slip back into the dream and not care about it. So like trying to practice control over the dream is a whole nother muscle you have to learn how to use.
And when you're lucid dreaming, does time go by quickly, or is it like how does that work?
It varies.
Does it feel like it's 5 minutes and you just wake up, or?
No, it varies. The longest, like I would say, dream sense would be like 2.5 hours. I could probably feel. I don't know what like real time that would feel like, but that would be like a long campaign. They're usually like connected to video games or what I'm most interested in. So it would just be like a long string of events that I'm in control of or can change what I want to.
And do you wake up rested?
Yeah, usually I do. I smoke a lot and I stay up late. So, generally no, but when I don't smoke a lot and I get to sleep on time, I am rested even using lucid dreaming.
Huh. Interesting. Yeah, I've never met
anybody. It's also kind of annoying though.
Why is it annoying?
It's in my, like, we don't really know everything about lucid dreaming. People didn't think it was a real thing until a scientist was able to put a brain scan on these participants and train them to run back and forth, left, right, with their eyes as a signal. So he was able to prove through the lucid state that it is a real thing. So there's like a lot of arguments online of what actually is happening, but I believe that the lucid dreams are a reflection of your subconscious. So what you expect to happen happens, and what your like deepest fears are can also manifest. So if you're not in control of that, your brain's just going to show you that nonstop till you get over it.
Interesting. That's that's pretty wild stuff. Any tips for anybody who wants to do lucid dreaming? Where to start?
Limit blue light if you can. Like basically everything in modern life is anti-lucid dreaming. So you have to like stick to a schedule, stay away from blue lights. Dream journaling is really good. You can also just use a voice recorder on your phone. As soon as you wake up, just hit record and just blabber.
And then that helps you actually eventually get into lucid dreaming states.
Yeah, the journal helps you like put your mindset on it, and you can see reoccurring characters and themes that help you like figure out, okay, this is definitely a dream. This always happens.
Huh. Interesting. Cool. Anything else you wanted to add?
No, just love you, Danny.
Appreciate it, man.
The mods put me in trouble for that, so I love you, Danny.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Thanks for calling in.
Hey.
That's cool shit. Let's take another call. One moment, please.
Yeah, that's pretty rad. 10 years. That's impressive.
10 years. Yeah. Fuck. I don't know if I stuck to many things for that long. Hello. You're on Low Value Mail. Who are we speaking with?
Hey, this is Brent down in South Carolina. How are you?
Brent in South Carolina. How's it going, man?
Pretty awesome. This is super interesting. Let's see. What was my question? Oh, I had one. I have a picture of the Masonic Lodge here in town, and the guy's birthday. He's a master Mason there. Was 1953, and it says AL 5963. So like 5,000 years. What does that mean?
Man, I have no idea. To be honest with you, I don't know. It could have been. Is that the
I know.
Is that the cornerstone? Did they put it on like the corner of the building?
On the side of the building, yeah.
It's probably whoever laid that cornerstone that put that there, because there's a ritual or a teaching around the cornerstone of the temple. So if you look, most lodges will have like the corner of the temple or on the side of it will have something like that. You know, could just be an American lodge. It could be an initial. You know? Yeah.
Well, no, it was given it said AD 1953. It said his name, and then AL 5953. So exactly 5,000 years. I'm like, what does that mean?
That's trippy. I don't know what that means. I wonder if that means like American Lodge or I don't know. That's a long. I had no idea what that was.
No, because there was a lodge number on it too.
Yeah, all lodges.
It was like 254. Yeah. But this looked like it was his birth date and his afterlife date or something. I don't know. I didn't know what it meant.
Yeah, I don't know. They didn't teach me that one.
Yeah, I guess they got to keep some stuff from you, right?
Yeah, I didn't stay there. Like I said, I didn't stay there. Like,
how high did you get in the? Did you start at one? Like, is that one?
Yeah, you just started entered apprentice. You know, fellow craft and master mason. You can go through all three. There's some lodges that'll push you through all 3 degrees in the same week.
And so, how much does being a mason have to do with actual masonry?
Well, I mean, it's said like that's the difference between like operative masons and non-operative, but that's whatever. Like it's said to go back to ancient stone masons, the people that, you know, once you dig into it, that they put all the symbols and the knowledge of what's in masonry and all of the stuff in the temples, right? In the structures that they built, even the Pyramid of Giza. A lot of people have claimed it goes back. There's different stories, right?
Sure.
So how are we going to know the truth? So some people say it goes all the way back to ancient Egypt and the whole teachings of the pyramid mysteries and all that stuff are built inside that temple. But I honestly think that it's so lost to a lot of people that some people, there's no way of knowing how far it goes back. But yes, it does go back to original like stone masons, if you're asking that, because they would gather together and talk about this stuff, you know, and then they would, you know, kind of guard the doors. Because back then, if you got caught talking about anything outside the church or where does this stuff come from, anything like that, you get strung up.
Right.
Anything outside religion, you know.
Yeah. Were these, so is the Masons like they're not an anti-religious thing. They're
No. Yeah. They're not anti-religion at all. You have to believe in a creator. You have to the idea is to begin to understand the mysteries of what's being taught in these religions, you know. You have to have almost, where I'm from, they almost want you to go to church all the time because you have to have a book. Yeah, that book is supposed to be the key to understanding the mysteries.
Okay. Anything else there, Brent?
I've had a couple lucid experiences. One was one was kind of I don't know if it's astral or not. I guess it's just words. But one, I was just you know, in that mental state of sleep, and every time I would breathe in, like levitate all the way to the ceiling, and I would exhale and go back.
That's actually an out of body state, though.
Yeah. I woke up so happy. I've had, one flying dream, and I had a ghost experience where it felt like it was 3 different weekends at this old schoolhouse turned into apartments. And one night, she was a little girl, and she was real friendly, and but she dragged me out of my body and across the floor, like towards this it used to be an exit, like or a closet or something. and she drug me into that closet, and I had to. That's when I had to turn it off. But it was so blissful, you know. Before I just got scared, you know. I had to do something to, you know, how you can just turn it off.
Yeah, I guess so. I'm not sure what you're talking about.
I don't know.
Did something pull you out of your body? Is that what you're saying? Like a being?
Yeah, it was a little
out?
girl. It was a girl ghost, and I found out later when we paid rent that I was like, "Is there a ghost in this building?" Because I saw her 3 times. You know, not
you
with
saw her
my eyes, but
in a
you know,
dream?
kind of in.
Or
Yeah, kind of mid dream state. When she pulled me out of my body, it didn't feel like no dream to me. Like it felt like decidedly different than it. But it might have just been like, I don't know. But I asked at the rental office. I was like, "Is there a ghost in this building?" And they were like, "You're talking about the little 7-year-old girl that's with the long dark hair?" I'm like, "Oh my god!"
Whoa,
that's trippy, man.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
I know. Yeah. But I do have synchronicity and all that stuff. I studied Carl Jung, and so I think I'm tapped into a lot of that stuff. Like I see numbers like nobody's business every day.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah,
Yeah.
You got to be careful though, man. You can start tapping into this realm so much that you'll get a little manic if you're not careful. You got to make sure you ground yourself too, even if.
Oh, I totally believe in that.
You know. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I totally believe in that. Yeah. I don't. That's why I didn't know anything about this magic stuff you're talking about, because I've always been, you know, like scared to even like read about the occult. Like sure. I don't want. It's like, do I really want to know?
I understand that. Yeah. I totally get that too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you don't want.
I was afraid when I got involved with it too, because I grew up in the church. Like I grew up religious, you know, scared of hell, scared of damnation. But I wanted to know the truth.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting stuff. All right. Anything else there, Brent?
Nah. Thanks a lot, bro. I love you.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks. That's Brent, everybody. I got actually a question for you from the chat. This is from David. He says, if you have any thoughts about gematria, this has to do with the number stuff.
It's real.
Of the last call,
100% legit.
Yeah,
it's one of the things that you learn in the mystery schools, even Masonry. When you get deep into it, you learn about 2 ciphers. Okay, one is gematria, which is they have like American gematria and Hebrew gematria. The one I'm familiar with is that you add up all the numbers. So say 666 in the Bible, you add those up to 18. 8 plus 1 is 9. That number 9 corresponds with Yesod on the tree of life. It also corresponds with consciousness. You know, man, the 9 months that we're born, that number 9 corresponds with a lot of things. So you got to learn what 1 through 10 means on the tree of life to understand that form of gematria. And then they have another one. And there are hidden messages in the Bible, especially the Old Testament, right? And the New Testament too, all throughout there. And yeah, it's real. It's 100% legit. And then there's another cipher called Akbeker, which I never got into. But it's another form of deciphering codes in religious text, or any text for that matter. It's 100% legit.
Yeah.
Where you can go crazy is once you, like, I don't think all texts meant to have certain things hidden in them. And then you'll get into this mode where it's like you're trying to decipher everything. And then it starts to become manic. You know?
Sure. It's like when all you have is a hammer, everything's a nail. Like if everything.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah.
All right, let's take another call here. 1 second, please. I think I might know who this is as well. Coming from Toronto. You there?
Hey, Danny, I'm here. How you doing?
Hey, what's up?
Great. So, hey, Joe, I wanted to ask you, have you had any Mandela effect situations?
Mandela effect situations? Not really. Only... if I understand the Mandela effect, basically it's like, you know, something's real, but turns out it wasn't real. Like the Berenstein Bears or C-3PO's leg or something like that, right?
Yeah. What was the other one? Shazam, the main one?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. Okay. So that's a whole other topic, and it's very interesting. I don't know much about it, but what I will say that those same, like I could have swore my whole life that he said, you know, Luke, I'm your father, and that's it. Not no, I am your father. You know, like when you watch the movie, it's no, I am your father, and you're like, what? He didn't say that. He said, Luke, I am your father. But I don't know if that's a trick. But I do know this, that I have things that from my childhood that I don't know if they were a dream or they weren't real or real. It's hard to explain. Like things that I experienced, I don't know if it was reality or a dream.
Like
so,
what?
Well, for instance, I mean, just real quick, it's a long story, but real quick, one time my father sent me to go to sleep down the hall, and the hall was like dark. I didn't want to do it. And it traumatized me. I didn't want to go back. There's no lights, no night light, nothing. My dad was a hard ass. He didn't believe in any of that stuff. So get your ass back there and go to bed. Well, I was scared, but I remember walking down the hall and something grabbing my shoulder and turning around, and no one was there. And I ran back into the living room freaking out, and everybody was gone. But when I ask certain people about it in my life, they say, yeah, I was there when you freaked out. And other people tell me, no, it was a dream. So I think, honestly, I think the further back we go, I think the past is almost like a dream sometimes. I think reality is very funny like that. It can be, and it can get a little blurry, but to what extent, I don't know, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just real weird like that with reality and the past being blurry. Like I want, you know, the scientist in me wants to say that, you know, none of this shit is even, you know, remotely realistic. But every time you look into quantum physics and you realize that, you know, the past somehow affects the future and the future affects the past, nothing makes sense anymore immediately. And then you start thinking, I mean, is there something more to it, right? And as much as pretty much, as much as like everything you say just fucking boils my blood, and I just want to call bullshit.
Right, I get that. Yeah.
But at the same time, I mean, there's definitely, it's specifically quantum mechanics. The moment you start looking into that, you're like, fuck, it's something really fucking weird, right? And there's if people want to look into weird shit that happens with quantum mechanics and random number generators, look into. I forget the guy's name, but there's a guy that messes with all kinds of quantum shit. He's done a lot of work on random number generators. There was a weird thing that happened around 9/11. Random number generators all around the world started generating very similar numbers, and there's been a few other events like that.
When was this?
9/11 is when these number generators. Yeah. So on that day, they all started generating similar numbers, So anyways, so the same guy that's done studies into that, he also does. There's this really cool thing where they what they do is they do the double slit experiment, and basically to give everyone the quick rundown. So basically, you shoot you shoot molecules at two slits, and sometimes and the trajectory of the molecule can either go through the left slit or sometimes the right slit, and the distribution is going to be about 50-50. 50% of the time is going to go through the left, 50% of the time through the right. But what these guys do is they set up a whole bunch of people who observe as the experiment is happening, and the more often the results skew from being a perfect 50-50 to sometimes, for example, maybe more of the molecules or electrons, whatever they're shooting at it, if too many of them go through one side instead of the other, they end up with what they do is they put a light bulb that people can visibly see on top of this experiment. And sometimes, just to make this a little bit more spiritual, well, not sometimes, but they replace the light bulb with like a little Buddha. And so basically everyone is tasked with making the Buddha glow, right? So they're saying, okay, basically like everyone hopes that the electron passes through the right side more often than through the left. And if you guys do that successfully, the Buddha will glow. And even though the numbers are very similar, the numbers are about 50-50, but they generally land on like 50.00001% on the right side, right? Like, and so basically the end result is the Buddha kind of glows. And so and this dude does a lot of experiments like that. I forget. I wish I knew the name right now so I could shout him out. But but look into that. It's fascinating stuff.
I thought the double slit experiment was when they shot photons through the slits, and it proved that. I mean, I could be wrong, but it proved that that objects are waves until they become observed, then they become solid particles.
So I'll break it down real simple. I'm into this shit. So it started with photons, right? So originally they experimented with light, and they figured out that light is neither a wave nor a particle. Because and let me explain to everyone the biggest difference, right? 'Cause this is actually very important. I think people will be able to use this information in a lot of different ways. You got to understand the very difference between a particle and a wave, right? So a particle is just one thing, and a wave is the behavior of multiple particles interacting, right?
Right.
So, for example, one piece of one grain of sand is not gonna behave like one drop of water is not gonna behave like a wave. There's not gonna be ripples going through it, but a whole bunch of them together, they start making these wave patterns. And so at first they decided to try to see what's going on with light. Is light really a wave or is it a particle, right? So
that's what I was talking.
They did and so after experimenting a little bit, they found out that okay, well it does behave as a wave because it only goes through one thing, or in some situations you can find where you can find the photon. But then at the same time, as soon as you stop observing it, you realize that it actually behaves as a wave that travels as if a whole bunch of things are traveling all together, right? But what they did with the double slit experiment after that is they tried to see what other things can behave the same way. And so at first they tried electrons, and electrons behave that same way. And then they figured, okay, fuck it, let's try a whole atom. And an atom behaved that way. And then they did molecules, and they've done it with things as big as like a whole bunch of molecules of gold. I forget how many, but yeah. So it doesn't have to be light at all. So all of matter that we're made of behave as waves when we don't observe them.
That's trippy. Okay, so it's not just photons. It's
and they can't explain
it. Matter.
They can't explain why that does that.
Yeah. No. So the explanations are. Okay, I mean, well, the first explanation was the Copenhagen interpretation is just this shit is too crazy. Don't ask any questions. Just do the math, right? That's what scientists are working with. When you step outside of that, what they come up with is the multiverse theory and let's see, simulation. There's pilot wave is garbage. Forget about that. I shouldn't even have said it, but yeah, basically, multiverse is right now the leading theory. If you were to ask all the top scientists in the world, most of them would land on multiverse being the most likely interpretation, and then simulation right now is picking up a lot of heat. So simulation is a hot second.
Interesting. Huh, all right. Well, yeah, that's pretty wild. All right. Thanks for it, Matt. Appreciate it, man.
Absolutely. Anytime. Peace.
Later. Format, everybody. All right, let's go across the pond over to our man in Ireland. I assume this is the only Irish caller we have because it's God knows what time there. Hello.
Yes, you are right. Not a lot of Irish call in.
No. Have you checked out the portal? Do you live in Dublin? You don't live in Dublin, do you?
Yes, I have seen the portal, and yeah, it's grand. Everyone loves it.
Do they? I walked by it today, actually, on my way.
I saw that, yeah.
I walked by it, and there was literally 100 people standing in front of it, but it was turned off. I don't know if it's kind of like they don't like how people are behaving or what, or if... I assumed it's on 24 hours a day.
Yeah. Did you see the 9/11 one?
I did see the 9/11.
Where someone got...
Yeah.
I fucking love my people.
Yeah, and a bunch of Irish guys just doing coke in front of the portal for people to watch in New York. Good stuff. Anyways, what's up, man?
I just wanted to. I have a question for Joe. Was it?
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Sorry if this sounds a bit too skeptical or almost
or
something. But you're talking about out of body experiences and stuff. Wouldn't that be very easy to say prove or disprove? For example, just get something written into another room, have an out of body experience, read the thing, come back, and then tell someone, "Oh, I've just read the thing in that room." And why haven't you done that? And if you have, look, can we see that? Because that'd be very interesting to see.
I've tried to do that on many occasions. Actually, the whole method that Monroe did in his book, if you listen to it, he does the same thing. So all of the Monroe Institute is dedicated around a scientific experiment to prove that our consciousness leaves our body. What the problem is the nature of reality to it. So what'll happen, and this is what happens sometimes, and it's happened with me too. First and foremost, I have to tell you, anytime that I've set up letters or anything like that, and I have friends that have done this with me, purposefully to go in and like witness and come back and, they would hide it and I'd say, this is what this was, okay, to prove it. I haven't had many friends that have done it, and the ones that I have, I wouldn't even get out of body when I'd done that stuff. Like, I don't know why. When Monroe did it.
Pressure, like too many people watching.
I don't know. I don't know what it is.
Well, you are putting some pressure on yourself instantly where you're like, I got to make this happen right now.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the pressure or what it is, but like,
has anybody ever done it?
Yeah. Monroe's done this, and several people at the Monroe Institute have done this over and over again. You can look at all their experiments. It's all on archive.org too. But you have to understand you're dealing with individuals tend to make things up sometimes, or some people aren't exactly as honest as another person is. So there's millions of different variables, okay? But the thing that Monroe witnessed is that even when he got out of body and he went to his neighbor's house, like just as an example, and he did the same thing, and he thought that he was witnessing this guy's wife handing out playing cards at the table. And he's like, well, that's weird. Why is she handing out playing cards? So his consciousness actually went there. But when he asked his neighbor, he didn't tell his neighbor he was getting out of body or anything like that. And this is kind of the same experiments they do at the Monroe Institute. But he said, what's you guys' ritual in the morning? Well, my wife does breakfast. Every morning she does breakfast. We all sit at the table. And he's like, yeah, then what happens next? Well, she hands out the mail. So he saw his wife handing out stuff. But his brain, when he went out of body to witness it, it looked like playing cards. So
there might be interpretation, you're saying.
Yeah. So this is a fuzzy world, man. This is why when I tell people, like, they're so exact about what they saw or where they went, I'm like, man, I just don't see it that way, because they're so, like, I know that something came out of my body, or at least perceive that it did. I know that something went into that room and hit that desk. Like, I don't know if maybe the mind is so amazing that it just made up everything exactly the way it's supposed to be instantly, and that there's a different kind of connection in this realm. I don't know, but I do know
what
that
you're talking about, might it be similar to, I don't know, like old Greek prophecies, where like you might see the future or whatever, but the human brain just can't interpret it. I think it might be
that's like that. Like remote viewers can do that. Like some people they have, I think it's the CIA's looked into this too with, I forget his name. Was a part of the same process. So you can watch about it in Third Eye Spies documentary, but they don't try to go out of body. They just get into an altered state of consciousness and then take their consciousness somewhere and say, okay, I saw this thing. And then they experiment on it, and it's either accurate or it's not. Some people are amazingly accurate at remote viewing. Some people you're not, just as like, I think there are out of body travelers that, like, say, Thomas Campbell, who's been doing it for years. He's a NASA physicist, or William Buellman, who's been doing it for years. They become proficient at it, but the little things, like there's something in there that will trick the mind a little bit, or maybe it's like that observer effect that he was talking about. Maybe as soon as our consciousness saw paper, the mind said, well, that's playing cards. And then that's what we saw. Like, I don't know. So all I know is it's not lucid dreaming. It's not astral travel, or it's not remote viewing. It's something different. It's something totally different. That's what I know.
And so were either of those two people able to verify, like similar to this, the two people that you just referenced, like were they able to verify, like in terms of, you know, reading something in the next room, or they've been unable to do that?
Some of them were at the Monroe Institute. Yeah. Some of them
but
were.
the two guys you just referenced. Who
Yeah.
have.
Like I can't give you specifics because there's so many. There's there's a project called the Explorers Project, right? You can look it up on archive.org. A lot of times they'll get out of body and they're either claiming that they're helping somebody move on that's died, or they're talking to somebody that's passed away, or they're talking to a being, right, that's giving them information about consciousness. So you have to go through all these different, like, tracks to find the ones where they're actually doing experiments. Okay, experimenter A went to this bedroom and we put this thing up there. What did you see? And they'll say, I saw this or that. They'll say that's correct or it's not, you know. Like I personally, the experience I had, man, was so real. Like I'm not really into proving it. Matter of fact, I'm more into getting people to that state, right? So I used to go to places where people would have me go out and speak, and I would help people get under a certain hypnotic state. And even a guy that was atheist, like he's a total atheist. Like the last one I went with Grimerica, right? I went out there with them. A guy had an experience. I don't know anything beyond that. I just want to get people to that vibratory state and get that that etheric body peel out. That's all I want, just so you can witness that. And then the rest is up to you. That's the only thing I want to help people get to. I can't prove anything beyond that. But this guy had an experiment. He was freaking out. Big, tall guy. He didn't believe in anything. Said he don't believe in nothing. Just maybe science. Mm-hmm. But his face was white. And he was like, I scratched my head. And I said, so big deal. No big deal, right? He said, no, but my hand was on my leg. But I scratched my head. I felt it. And I said, well, you probably came out a little bit and that was your etheric hand. He's like, well, that's not possible. He did it, but he still couldn't believe it.
Sure.
Like his brain can't, like once it's not logic, his brain stops. Once he can't measure it, his brain stops.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? And I'm like, well, I can't explain it to you either, man, you know?
Yeah.
So basically that's what I'm saying. I can't explain all of this stuff. I just know that it exists, you know?
Huh. Anything else there, James?
Nah, I'm good. That's it.
Cool. Thanks, man. All right. Thanks again for coming on. By the way, this is interesting stuff. Let's take.
It sounds like complete craziness. I get it. I
yeah,
totally
but
it's.
I mean, it's interesting. I mean, my whole thing is I just like to talk to people who are kind of like, you know, into these things that generally people have probably never heard of. All right, we got a caller here. All right, you're on Low Value Mail. Who are we speaking with?
L'chaim.
L'chaim. How's it going?
My name is Liam, but I recently found out that I might be Jewish, so I'm really adopting my Jewish nature in me.
Dude, lean into it,
and
man.
Thank you, Danny. Thank you for pulling that out of me, Danny.
No problem, dude.
And thank you. Our guest, he's into the esoteric, astrology even. I appreciate that. Do you believe that the Bible is God's word and that the Jewish people are the chosen people?
Oh, man, you're going to get me in trouble here, right? Like, you're going to get me in trouble. Like, I don't believe, I believe a lot of that's been misstrewn, man. And like, I don't even know if that's even a word. Like, no, I don't believe there are any chosen people or special people.
I will agree with you.
I think we're all unique and special in our own sense of the word. But
Danny,
yeah,
I just don't. Sorry.
What's up, Liam?
Danny, so this video that you came out with that is about people noticing how Jewish people have a very large presence for a small population.
Hey, man, we do well. You can't argue with the stats.
That's true.
So, you're making fun of people who are noticing this? Are you trying to discourage people from that? Or
Absolutely
is it
not.
just,
I mean, no. I mean, you can do it. You can keep track. Here's the thing, and I've said this before. As much as people noticing, it's the people who know about Jews in like levels of who are like successful Jews are other Jews. Jews are the first people to tell you, like they're the ones who know all the Jews in other things. I just find it funny, the people, like the type of person who like, you know, is spending 8 hours a day. Like, dude, Leather Apron, I asked him to come back on the show. And like, cause again, I'm trying to get him to be like, it's not some gotcha. I think any of you could attest that I would, you know, I just want to talk to him. I'm sure you guys all know I treat him incredibly fairly, but he had his most recent spreadsheet has 48,000 entries. Cause I just made it. And I just finally made the list, which I don't know if you know what we're talking about at all here, Joe.
No, I don't. But I'm curious. Though.
Anyways, I made a sketch. There's this guy named Leather Apron Club, and his whole deal is he just meticulously tracks any people in power and whether or not they're Jewish or whatever they are. And I don't quite know what his remedy is.
He's probably convinced, like there's a conspiracy crowd that's convinced that, totally convinced.
Yeah, they're watching the show right now.
Yeah. And hey, look, I don't know. It could be true, man. It could be true. But they're totally convinced that the Jews have the money and they're the ones running the show. And they've been running the show for a long time.
Sure. I mean, there's certainly a case to be made. But anyways, he makes this spreadsheet and it's got he must spend hours a day. Every single day. Like he's at 48,000, has like multiple cells. And his whole thing is he's not flippant about his research. Like he does very like meticulous research. I just find it to be that's his hobby.
Well, does anybody know what his research has shown? Is it true? Like, is it?
Yeah. I mean, again, it's like if you ask any
Jews run the world.
If you ask any Jews, if you ask any Jews if they're overrepresented, they're like, yeah, certain things, absolutely, we are. Now, again, I don't know what his.
I'm going to step off on this one.
No, it's cool. It's cool. I'm Jewish. It's fine. But my question is always, what's the prescription?
I know. Well, education, I think.
Sure.
But like compassion.
I don't think it's compassion. I don't think what he's going for is compassion.
I mean, I feel bad for Jewish people that they get brought up saying that like, oh, another Shoah is right around the corner, another Holocaust. Amalek rises up to strike you in every generation. So Jewish people grow up in a state of paranoia, of psychosis. And so I feel bad
only like the modern ones, but it's because everybody, I'll explain this to people who kind of like don't, or maybe don't get it, but it's because everybody has like a grandparent who's like, yeah, my whole family was massacred. So it's just like, there's probably a lot of kind of like, fifth generation, whatever, who like, they're like, yeah, we don't actually know many people, but there are a lot of people who are like, yeah, I don't know, my fucking grandma has a tattoo on her arm or whatever the hell. And so that's why, at least that's the explanation. Like, I can speak for myself saying I'm not exactly paranoid about anything. Not any about that.
Yeah,
stuff,
we would call it. It's called Holocaustianity. The Holocaust has become like a religion in itself. It's like the main identifying factor, and it gives a victim card, and they play it all the time, especially for October 7th. This is the biggest. I literally killing of Jewish people.
Yeah,
the Holocaust.
Sure.
The only thing I could say is the Western mysteries are based on the tree of life. The tree of life that's in the Zohar, which is the mystery tradition of the Jews. So our entire Western mystery system is based off of the Etz Chaim, or that tree.
Interesting.
Right. That's pretty interesting.
Even Christianity, Islam, and Masonry, and even Satanism all have their root in Judaism. And it is, if you're a Mason, they believe that Solomon built his temple without the hands of the Jewish workers, because they got the Goyim to build the temple for them. So the Masons believe that they're the Templars, the temple builders. The golem is Jesus. So they have the non-Jewish people do the work for them, because it's Esau that's who's supposed to work the field, while Yitzhak or Yaakov studies the Torah in the tent. It's real. We have to bring a historical, critical approach to our religion We have to realize that these things are fictional. They might have some esoteric meaning. And then we have to weed out the ones that are supremic. And I think that's the way that we can go forward.
And
I know
you say this as a Christian?
Not go into comedy. I'm sorry.
You're a Christian?
No, I realized that Christianity was created by Judaism to conquer the Gentile world.
Ooh,
how about that?
That I've never heard. That's an interesting take.
I could direct you to Adam Green, Danny, who had on the show.
Yeah, he's been on the show.
Really cool.
Friend of the show, Adam Green. Yeah, I mean, I've said it before. I brought Adam Green on the show, and then he didn't talk about any of that stuff.
He didn't?
No, all he talked about was Christianity. I was like, get into the Jew stuff, and it was just all Christianity the whole time. Because he's like, I'm off the Jews right now. He's like, I'm off the Jews right now. I'm on the Christians. Like, oh, okay.
You do have to kind of wonder why they put codes in there, though.
I'm
just saying.
In the Torah,
gematria, Hebrew gematria. There's codes all in the old.
Well, there was that in the 90s. There was that guy who came out with this book called the Bible Code. If you remember that, it was that's it was like a bestseller, and he's like, I can predict. It was essentially not exactly gematria, but it was essentially like you can, and if you like whatever, you can find.
Yeah, my grandfather got into that.
Yeah, but then it was I remember he came out with this book, and it was like super popular, and then someone was like, if you take that and you literally do that with Moby Dick, does anything with enough letters in it, and like you can find all that shit. It's total bullshit.
No, the rabbis are big into gematria, and it is.
I mean, I've known a lot of rabbis in my life. I assure you, I've never even fucking heard of gematria. Like, this is the funny thing is, like, I went to Hebrew school for 9 years. Half of the shit that I hear from the callers, I had never heard of before.
Ask them about the Kabbalah. What are they?
Kabbalah, yeah, obviously
you're not
Kabbalah.
Yeah. If you were Chabad,
no, I'm not Chabad,
you would know it, and you have to be to a certain age to know it.
Yeah. Kabbalah was that's not for kids. That's like I think. I think you have to specifically be older.
Because we had one Jew, Sabbatean Francis, who started this whole movement where he used the Kabbalah to justify doing evil because either the whole world has to be evil for Moshiach to come, their Messiah, or good, and he thought that the whole world being evil would be a lot easier.
Yeah, I mean there are a lot of where I live in Brooklyn, like there are a lot of. And like a lot of the anti-Zionist Jews and stuff, and a lot of the pro-Zionist Jews actually, like the super Orthodox ones, they actually want the thing in what's going on in Israel to go as badly as possible because that'll just bring in, it's just a quicker ends to means to bring in the Messiah so that we can all just leave this planet.
Just so everybody knows, which one believes the Messiah has come and one's waiting on it still, right?
Sure.
That's right.
Yeah.
Keep on waiting. Christianity is like the QAnon psyop,
Christianity. See, I believe that whole story is about a consciousness that wakes up inside of you. I don't believe that the land flattens out or that a white horse is going to come down. That's actually Pegasus. I think it's something that wakes up inside all of us at some point in time. I don't think.
And I think that's what
Messiah
we need to do.
Is coming back.
We need to spiritualize these interpretations of these texts instead of literalizing them.
Exactly.
So that the goyim that need to be wiped out isn't the Gentile, but perhaps that part in us that is inclined towards selfish behavior, So that's what I push for. The Orthodox Jews that are anti-Zionist, all they have is a different timeline. Yeah. They think that there shouldn't be the return until the Moshiach comes first, but they still have these same genocidal ideologies, theologies present within them. So they're not to be heralded. What is to be heralded is Danny hosting such things like this and being open. And I really appreciate you, Danny. And Joe, I appreciate you too. Check out the Aquarian.tv. I'm a professional astrologer. I go through this stuff all the time. Perhaps I'll send you a message.
Cool, man.
Right on.
Thanks for calling.
That's cool.
All right. Later, man. All right. Let's take another call. Thank you again, Joe, for coming on. I'm going to wrap this up very shortly. You seem a little uncomfortable.
No, I'm fine. I just, I've never been in that arena where it's like, oh, I'm a Jew. And,
sure.
I don't, religion is like politics to me. I kind of back out,
Hello. You're on Low Value Mail.
Hello. Hey, Joe.
Hey, what's up?
I had before I get to my two questions concerning like logistics and administrations of the Masons, I have a comment on dreams and I have a comment on the Jews.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
So one, about the dreams. Dream analysis, in my personal belief, is for two groups of people, women and gypsies.
Right on.
Okay.
It's just, one of them is just a little simple task, to kill time, and the other are gypsies. So
how much weed do you smoke,
can't
Slav?
trust them. See, I haven't smoked since I think like February.
Okay, so
I
you're
had
off
the
it.
crazy ass dreams. I had when you stop smoking weed, you get the intense dreams and all that shit. Yeah.
What kind of stuff? What kind of stuff do you
know
dream about? Do you remember them? I'd be curious with you.
I see what you're doing. I'm not
doing
Stuff that only
anything.
a woman or a gypsy could analyze.
I'm not doing
probably.
anything. I'm sure you remember some of your dreams. I'm just trying to get. I'm just trying to know you a little better.
What is it? What I do know is I know when I'm lucid dreaming because usually I will check my watch and I'll check it like 3 times, and like I'll look at it once and I'm like, okay, that's the time. I'll look at it the second time and I'm like, whoa, I just jumped like 6 hours in the span of like 1 second. And then I'll look at it a third time and it's not even like a normal watch face. It's like numbers all spun around. I'm like, okay, I see what's going on. And then
what do you do?
Yeah, usually it's not really much of anything in my control. It's just like everything that's around me, I can't really control what's happening around me. It's just how I interact with it. I mean, some of the worst, again, with the dreams, I believe like there's no such thing as a good dream, because you either have a bad dream, or if you have a good dream, you are woken up from it and brought back into your comparatively shitty existence.
That is
compared
pretty
to, like,
true.
a good dream. Yeah, so, I mean, I've had the dreams of like, what is it, where it's like I still think I'm in college. Right, I'm back in college, and then like I show up for a class. I'm like, wait, I've been missing this class the whole year. Like, am I even gonna graduate? And then I just wake up. I'm like, dude, I have my degree. I'm like, why am I tripping about it?
I honestly think I've had a similar dream to that, to be honest, like something like that, where I was like, what the fuck? I didn't realize. I honestly
Like, why am I here?
You just said that, and that actually just like kind of triggered some sort of memory. I feel like.
Well, have fun having those. Have fun having those dreams. But what is it? Let's see, the Jew. So yeah. So with the Jews, I mean, the thing is, throughout time, what is it? Groups of people have imposed their will on others through force, like with violence and stuff, and you didn't comply, you either fought back or you lost, and then
it's tail all the time.
Or you complied and you weren't hurt.
Yep.
The Jews have always done this thing where they either just do financial trickery, and then once they get turned, but when you impose your will through force, there's always blood on your hands, so there's accountability. And the people who impose their will through force, they know that and they understand that, and everybody's on deck, and they know what the game is. But with Jews, they've always done like financial manipulation or social manipulation. And then once people see the trick going on, they come at them and they're like, "Oh, I have no blood on my hands. How can you?"
They
get
wash their
mad?"
hands of it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, hey, I'm a Jew. And I'm also, I'm like, it is.
You do know that all religions have magic ritual. Like the Jews cast lots, the Christians do certain things too. They all have their own rituals and ceremonies that they do, but anything outside of that is witchcraft, right?
Right, because it's because heretical, essentially.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, no, I'm not one for the pageantry and traditions. I'm more of like, hey, atheists, they don't have any text concerning what is right and wrong. Like, they have no system of morality. like their whole spiel is like, there is no God, there is no hell or heaven. I actually like the thought of hell and eternal damnation and suffering, because
Really?
it will make people, because it'll make it like, it's one thing, maybe it's an incentive for people to, know how to behave properly.
I mean, for sure, that's
while
what
they
it
walk
is.
the earth.
It's just,
That's
just
what it
this-
was, yeah.
It's like a threat of, this thing
But
you can't
you-
see or
And then-
quantify.
You have to think about like how much have lies. Let's say the 10 Commandments. Let's just look at those. Whatever. If how much suffering has it caused to people just lying, period, or just stealing, taking what's not yours, or manipulating? How much suffering and hell does that cause?
Sure.
If you look at the ripple effect, I don't think you have to die to go somewhere to be damned. I think you do it to yourself.
Very Jordan Peterson-esque of you.
Oh yeah, is it?
Yeah.
And then with other
Yeah.
religions that talk about like reincarnation, that just seems like an easy out, where it's like, they're like,
Well,
oh,
you could get reincarnated as something
go back.
shitty, though.
Yeah, you can. And you got
Yeah.
to deal with the karma of what you did in the past life, which can be even worse than what you went through.
Yeah, exactly. You could be reincarnated as something super crappy.
Yeah. So my question about the Masons and stuff. One is, what is it that you know about like the state of Masons internationally, like outside of America and England, where?
So the only lodges that we recognize are the Grand Lodge of England and the Grand Lodge of France. So the International Order of Masons, co-eds, and all these different, there's several Masonic, like I said, orders that don't, that's where it gets complicated, that don't recognize each other. So mainly all the lodges in North America that are hardcore, like legit and old traditional, go back to the Grand Lodge of England. If you get up further north, some go back to the lodge in France, but they have other organizations, but they just don't, like all they say is, we don't recognize you as a legitimate organization, but they still do it anyways. It's really weird, actually, once you look into all of it. It's more political than politics.
And there are none that are like recognized like in Italy, especially like, like Venice and the Vatican. So like adjacent.
Oh, I'm certain that there are societies inside of the Vatican. I'm dead certain of it. I don't know. I don't have any proof of it.
There must be.
But there are. I mean, you have to, like you were talking about, think about the Library of Alexandria. That was the Roman Catholic. We don't want to say Christianity, but the Roman Catholics came into Alexandria and took that place over. They forced their hand on the Jews, the pagans, everybody. Burned the library and everything. But because Rome and Catholicism and Christianity was the literal word of God, you had to bow down to it or be stoned to death, So, yeah, I mean, like they have secrets in that place, obviously, that they don't want us knowing, because they're the only church that does ceremony like a traditional ceremonial magician does. And all of the people that teach ceremonial magic, like the books that go back, like Eliphas Levi, Henry Cornelius Agrippa, these people were Catholic. So, there's something to be said about that.
Some similarities there.
I mean,
yeah.
So because I know like way back then, like especially leading up to the Renaissance and everything, Masonry was like a protected secret, like how secretive they guarded the technology for like, the atom bomb and all that shit, Masonry was like that as well back in the day. Like we can't let everyone know how to like, cut the stone and stack them right so, they don't fall.
I mean, the trade secrets.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the word.
There's probably a lot of incentives to not publicize, certain valuable information.
To not get killed is one of them.
That's
then
true.
people will rob that information. They believe that like once you learn the mysteries of nature and everything, right, that the people will use it for power.
Sure.
That's one reason.
Which makes sense. Doesn't
so you don't think that you think the Masons have already like whatever physical tangible technology that they have has just been surpassed by like DARPA and the military? Like I don't think the Masons trying to perfect the jet engine,
No, I think the last great thing the Masons did was bring formation to the United States of America. Benjamin Franklin was a Mason, and he, supposedly contacted his brothers in France to help us win that war. And we meant to set up the United States under a government that was supposedly supposed to be like ancient Atlantis. It was supposed to be the new spiritual freedom kind of thing, built by Masons. Lots of the guys were Masons that built that signed their name to that Constitution, and those brothers came together and helped win the war. But that's the last as far as technology is concerned. I don't think they're into like space travel and all. I've heard that from other people. I don't see it, man.
Yeah. Right. And then the last one, the last one, and it was interesting that you brought up like with the only countries that are recognized as chapters within the actual whole order was concerning the blacks, because I know for a while the blacks were not allowed, and because actually like one of my friends back in Houston,
do the Masons have an actual policy?
Mason.
They in Arkansas, I don't know about now, but when I left, you couldn't, like a Prince Hall Mason wasn't recognized. You could be, if you were a black guy and you went into a regular Masonic, like free and accepted lodge, and they accepted you and voted you in, you're a Mason. But if you were a Prince Hall Mason, which was strictly like, mostly black people, but I went into Prince Hall lodges, they accepted me.
Yeah.
So I don't get it, right?
Sure.
But no, you couldn't do that. You couldn't even have their license plate. But then again, I told you, it's all political. There were other states that were like, man, Arkansas, other Grand Lodges. It's like another government inside the government.
Right. These are just
there were other Grand Lodges that were like, Arkansas is out, dude. I can't believe they're doing that,
Right.
So
has anyone tried to force including the homosexuals or the females?
Can women be Masons?
Yeah.
No, not traditionally. No, no, it's a fraternity. Right. Just like you wouldn't accept a woman into a fraternity or a man into a sorority.
Sure.
But they do have the Eastern Star, which is like the woman's version.
Yeah. What about transgender?
Man, I don't know. Just depends on, I guess, what they identified as and what lodge, I mean, I don't know. I've never even heard of that.
Huh. All right, Slav, I gotta let you go, man.
Right.
All right, that's been the show. Sorry for people who are currently on hold, but we got to wrap this up. Joe, thank you again for coming on. Where can people find you?
Yeah, just at Fringe. It's fringe.fm. That's it. I created that network for kind of what you're doing. Like, I love radio. I love call-in shows. So I created it a long time ago. We have a few radio shows on there, and I do a nightly show on there. Kind of like, so it comes on Tuesday through Thursday at 9 Central. So what's that? 10 Eastern, 7 Pacific.
Okay.
Yeah, and I take in calls and have guests and stuff like that too. It's fun.
Cool. All right. Well, we got a similar thing. I love to hear it. And any social media you want to plug before we?
Yeah, you could just look up Joe Rupe or Lighting the Void, which is the name of my radio show on all the platforms, and I'm basically on there. So is the Fringe FM. It's on all of them. Just give me a follow. I'll follow you back. Accept it.
Cool.
That kind of thing.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Sorry to the callers we couldn't get to, but we will hopefully speak to y'all next week. Tomorrow night, new episode of The Bathhouse, 9 p.m. Eastern, live from the Stand Comedy Club Green Room. I hope I will see some of you there. And if you want to support the show, patreon.com/low value mail. That has been the show. Good night, everybody. Empathic abilities, yeah, my face be also stoic. Bleep, blow up, nigga, that just means I'm working. They see me as a leader, so that's why I'm Captain Kirkin. These tracks from the stars, that much is for certain. You can feel this hit if you up or if you hurt. I'm raising my stock, not talking my feet in some Birkin. Number Johnny 5, got a fucking short circuit. Bring the track to life when I spit phenomenally. When I hit, she feel that shit in her abdominals. These rappers make me laugh like comic view, they comical. You know I got a ball out, I hit the track running just like Sonic do. They don't wanna turn on my light switch. Yeah, they was trying to get me on my hype shit. Yeah, they don't wanna turn on my light switch. Yeah, and they tried to down me up some KO type shit. Yeah, they don't wanna turn on my light switch. Yeah, now we pulling up pressure on some flight shit. They don't wanna turn on my light switch. Yeah, they don't wanna turn on my light switch. They don't wanna turn on my light switch. Yeah, they was trying to get me on my hype shit. Yeah, they don't wanna turn on my light switch. Yeah, and they tried to down me up some KO type shit. Yeah, they don't wanna turn on my light switch. Yeah.